welcome to a art and live Q&A. We have a snowstorm outside, so I thought today could be a great day to film a Q&A. Last night I asked you on Instagram for you to drop your questions, so today I'm here answering to a few of them. Let's get straight into it. Questions in handy, matcha in handy. Let's go. First question, ¿cuántas horas dedicas a tu trabajo a diario? How many hours do you dedicate to your work each day? I try to be sitting down already working in my art studio by 10 a.m. and usually I go up until 6 or 7 p.m. I do try most of the days to take a break and make lunch, usually something quick. And that's actually a perk from having my art studio at home, is that I can leave lunch cooking like dal or quinoa or roasted veggies while I'm back here working. So I would say I get like a 30-40 minute break for lunch in between cooking and eating. But yeah, I usually start at 10 a.m., finish around 6 or 7 p.m. and I work at least 5 times a week, but I most often than not end up working 6 or 7 days a week. Usually if I'm working on my weekends, I try to work less those days, start later and just take it slower, because if not, then I don't really get enough time to rest in order to come back to work on Monday. Actually, my weekends are not Saturday, Sunday, they are Tuesday and Wednesday, and today is a Tuesday, so today is part of my weekend, but I'm here working, and it all depends on how I balance my work each month, each week. There's times as a freelancer artist that I have a lot to do on a month, and there's others where I get to do less, but when I have less deadlines with clients or other people, that's when I get to paint more. So it's not like, oh, I have nothing to do. I feel I never not have something to do. So I hope that answers the question. Then we have, how do you come up with new ideas or themes for your art? That's a great question. In the past few years, have been working specifically on portraying nature, specifically plants and fungi. And I do this not only because it's super fun to look at them under the microscope and paint them and get to make these bio art pieces, but also because I have a very bad memory and I love watching nature documentaries. I love going to foraging workshops and stuff like that, but it's very often that I forget everything I learn. I can watch a 3-hour documentary and next day I want to share with someone what I learned, but I already forgot everything. So when I actually take the time to sit down, do research, look at species either on nature, under the microscope, and then I paint them and I classify them in their taxonomic divisions in my paintings. That's usually the way that I distribute my mandalas, and this really helps me remember. So usually the way that I would choose a theme is because I want to learn about something specific on nature. So my last painting, this one that you can see, un cachito, this one that you can see a very little part, it's about the pollinators. And I started this one back in May because I wanted to learn more about the symbiotic relationship that different pollinators have. And you know, when we think about pollinators, we usually think about bees or butterflies, but there's so many other animals that are pollinators, and I wanted to learn more about them. So making a painting about them becomes for me the perfect excuse to have a reason to make the research and learn. When I did my evolution of plants painting, I learned so much about it, and even though I made this painting, I believe back in 2018 or 19, I still remember most of what I learned while painting. And when I did this taxonomic division of the fungi kingdom with 320 species of fungi, I learned so much, and I finished that painting 2 years ago and I still remember a lot of what I learned. So yeah, it's pretty much the themes that I want to learn the most. I am also working on a painting about Peruvian fruits, and it's just because I want to learn more about Peruvian fruits and foods And after that, I want to start a painting about seeds because I know little about seeds and I want to learn more about them and see all the different types of seeds that they are. I'm also working on this one about the eukaryotic kingdom, which I'm learning so much. The problem is I want to learn so much and there's just so much time, and I take a long time painting. So actually that's the challenge. Trying to figure out less topics so I can do one at a time. I have so many paintings in my mind and my head goes faster than my hands, but that's another topic. All right, next question. Any advice for a shy person to go out there? Thank you so much for asking these. As a shy person myself, as a person that loves her introvert side the most, I feel that throughout the years I've asked myself this question, and of course each of us is different and what works for me might not work for you, but this is me sharing what has worked for me. I always thought that being shy or being introvert and really wanted to put myself out there meant that I had to put a mask of being extrovert. I always thought like, oh, the way to make that is to just like become extrovert or fake to be extrovert in one way or the other. And if there's one thing that I've learned throughout the years, I'm about to turn 34, and it is that I don't want to fake being extrovert. I want to feel comfortable enough to share myself being the introverted, shy person that I am. Whenever I would think, oh, you need to change in order to show up to the world, like fake being like the others, I never felt comfortable. I felt I was faking the way that I shared who I am, and it also made me feel anxious or overwhelmed. There's one thing that I really take to heart and that I would love to share. It's that I think there's space out there, whatever that means, for people to be introverted, for people to show up in their softness, for us to show up in our, calm, soothing energy, or just taking longer in order to answer to a question, or sometimes, not knowing how to reach out other people, just like being our awkward selves out there. Because I feel most of the people that I've known throughout my life are very introverted, and it's beautiful when we're like, hi, and we can just share from our own rhythms and our own ways without trying to push. So I would say that like really just be comfortable in the shyness, be comfortable in the introverted version of ourselves, and knowing that it's fine to show up in the world that way, because I feel it's not like we're all 100% shy or 100% introverted or 100% extroverted. It's like we carry these different energies, and I feel that there's also moments in time where I feel more extroverted than others. So I feel we're constantly changing, and I think we can all relate to that introverted side. So if there's this fear of, no, the world won't understand me because I don't know, my rhythms are different or whatever, I feel there's space for all of us in our rhythms and our way of sharing. And I was recently remembering this quote by Ram Dass that talks about trees, and I'm gonna share it because it's so beautiful. So this is Ram Dass, and the quote says, "When you go out in the woods and you look at trees, you see all these different trees, and some of them are bent and some of them are straight, and some of them are evergreens, and some of them are whatever. And you look at the tree and you allow it. You see why it is the way it is. You sort of understand that it didn't get enough light, and so it turned that way. And you don't get all emotional about it. You just allow it. You appreciate the tree. The minute you get near humans, you lose all that. And you are constantly saying, you are to these, or I am to these. That judgment mind comes in. And so I practice turning people into trees, which means appreciating them just the way they are." And I share this quote because I feel that throughout the years, I have become more comfortable looking at myself as a tree and not judging, why am I an evergreen instead of being a redwood or whatever. Just like I am this introverted sometimes awkward person. Sometimes I am like super logical. Sometimes I'm super airy, and it's fine, you know, like why not turn ourselves into trees and let ourselves be like, hi, this is the tree that I am. Okay, too out there maybe. Before I keep answering your questions, I just wanted to say thank you to today's video sponsor, who is Squarespace. Squarespace has been the virtual home of my art portfolio, email campaigns, and online shop since 2018, and I cannot recommend them enough. I recently migrated to Squarespace 7.1, and I've been loving how easy it is to fully customize my website with their fluid engine and in hand with their award-winning template. I am currently holding a cacao and meditation online container, and thanks to Squarespace member areas, it's been super easy to share an exclusive online portal. And Squarespace and I are partnering up to offer you a 2-week free trial. Once you're ready to launch, you can use the code Caro Arevalo to get your 10% of your first purchase of a website or domain. With them, of course. The next question is by my dear friend Mariano, who's an amazing filmmaker, and I haven't seen him in years, which is wild because we live in the same state. I would love to hear about independent artists, financial independence, strategies, etc. Thank you for asking this question because I feel there's not a lot of information out there. I at some point started making money as an artist, and I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Do I need to open a business, like legally open a business? Should I get an LLC? Should I do sole proprietor? I didn't understand the thing. So the way that I've done it, and this is not to say that I know all of it, I am still very much figuring it out. Actually, if anyone has any tips, share them here in the comments, please. But the way that I've gone about it is I started asking my other independent artist friends, but at the same time opening an LLC and not doing it all by myself, but hiring a company that could help me go through all the steps of opening an LLC, getting my EIN number, how do I open a business bank account, and all these things that were very not something I knew. Also, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. Both my mom and dad have always worked for someone in like a regular, to call it something, regular 9-to-5 job. So I couldn't really get tips from them. Also, they live in another country, so the way that things are legally done in the States can be quite different from how they are done in Peru. That's where I'm from. So I felt that working with companies that did all these things has been the best way for me. And I've always asked myself, like, actually, this is something that I shared with my patrons last year. I pretty much paid all my savings on taxes, and I just realized I don't understand any of this, you know, like, why is it so difficult to understand? And I haven't taken any business classes at all, no economic classes. So what I started doing after paying taxes last year and crying for paying so much money in taxes was to reach out to a financial advisor. So for the past few years, I've been working with this tax accounting company called Brass Taxes, and they are specifically focusing on freelancers and independent artists. So in the past, I have worked with accountants that are not quite familiar with the type of work that I do. So starting to work with accountants that are focusing on freelancers was the way to go, and it's been the best fit that I have found so far. And also last year, after paying taxes, I realized I don't know anything about this world, so I started consulting with a financial advisor, with a tax advisor, to really help me understand what should I do. Is there a way that I could plan for future years in order to pay less, or is this the way it is and I should just start saving 50% of what I make in order to pay that in taxes? And long story short, that's been the solution. But at the same time, it's been beautiful to slowly, and as I said, I'm still in the process of understanding, like, should I get an IRA? What is the difference in between an IRA and a savings account? Or things like, how do I pay my quarterly tax estimates? And all these questions that I had. And for me, it's been the best to just pay for 1 hour consulting tax and business accounting advisors, which are helping me understand, because this is a world that is totally new for me, and it's actually very overwhelming at the same time. But after I hired a financial advisor for the first time, I realized it's not as complicated as I thought it would be. So that's the best and only tip that I have. I still want to learn more. Oh, I actually have another tip, which is that Shantell Martin, which you may know, who is an amazing artist. Shantell has a YouTube channel, and back in the day, Shantell would hire lawyers or tax advisors to film videos together for Shantell's YouTube. So I've seen those videos and they've been helpful. So I will make sure to link those in this video in case that's something that you're interested in learning. I still actually need to learn so much more, but if this is something that you want me to share more about, I'd be happy to, because I feel that sometimes a lot of people focus on sharing about like how to overcome creative block, but not about like how the heck do I do my taxes and how do I make it work, you know? So yeah. How to not get overstimulated in this life? Isn't that the question that we all have? This world can be mega overstimulating a lot of the times, if not all of the times. And what really helps me not get overstimulated is being very strict with the way that I use my phone and I relate to the internet in general. And last year I haven't been the best on it. I'm so happy that for the past 2.5, 3 months, I've been very on point in the structure that I did for myself years ago, which is when I sit down to work at 10 a.m., I turn off my Wi-Fi and my phone data. I put my phone in airplane mode. If I am alone and I know I don't have any appointments or whatsoever, I would also just disconnect my Wi-Fi and focus on painting, on filming videos, on whatever it is that I'm doing that day. If I don't need to upload anything to the internet and I don't have any live calls, virtual calls, I would do that. And that gives me so much peace of mind, because if at some point I'm like, okay, I have a 2-minute break because I don't know, my printer is printing the art that I need to ship, or whatever it is, I just stare at the ceiling. I just stare through the window, and not scrolling through my apps during that time has been so helpful. I would usually turn my phone back on after I'm done with my workday around 6 or 7 p.m. And usually I leave it on for a couple of hours to, you know, be a human and chat with my family and respond to messages and see cute cat videos and check my emails or whatever. And then around 9 p.m. I would usually disconnect my phone again until next day. And the way that I do it in the morning is I don't turn my phone on first thing in the morning. My actual phone is on, but my Wi-Fi and the phone data are off. So I'm in airplane mode, and I would usually turn it on around 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. So a couple of hours to talk to my parents, talk to my friends, post something on the internet, or, you know, whatever I have to do online. But I only turn it on after I have finished my morning routine, which usually consists of yoga, meditation, sometimes journaling, and then I turn it off. It's so important for me to have that virtual hygiene or tech hygiene. And tech hygiene is very, very, very important for me. It really helps me not get overstimulated. And I have truly seen and noticed the difference when I wake up and stay in bed and scroll through my phone first thing in the morning. And then I feel so off. I'm doing my meditation being like, why is my heart racing? Why do I have all these thoughts? And more often than not, it is because I checked my phone first thing in the morning, which is not something that I usually do. And I truly swear by this way of structuring my use of my phone. And of course, this is not something that everyone can do. If I would have kids and they would be in school, I would not be turning my phone off. I would be on all the time in case they need me, you know? And something that also helps me is I usually delete apps from my phone very often. I delete Instagram from my phone 2 or 3 times a week because it doesn't serve me to have it there if at the moment I know and I can be honest with myself, like I am addicted to cat videos or mushroom photos at the moment. So I just need to delete this app, and I do, and whenever I need to post something, I install it again. And that's very helpful for me. And besides technology, I know that we all talk about FOMO a lot, fear of missing out in this day and time, but I invite us all to, instead of feeling FOMO, fear of missing out, we jump into the wagon of JOMO, which is the joy of missing out. Coming back to the introvert diaries, I love just not going to the party. I love not doing all the things and getting to do all the activities, rather just stay in bed with a book and go to sleep at 10 p.m. The thing that has been so beautiful for me lately is reading right before going to bed, and just whenever I'm starting to feel sleepy, leave my book and start sleeping. But that, and also something that's very helpful with overstimulation for me personally, is meditation. I have kept a very consistent meditation practice for the past few years, and meditation has been and continues to be so valuable in my life that last year I did a meditation teacher training in order for me to be able to share meditation with others. And I feel I've seen not even half of the tip of the iceberg. I know there's so much that more than I can learn in regards to teaching meditation and sharing meditation modalities with other people, as well as within my own practice. But meditation is definitely one of the key things that I do every day that really helps me like come back to my center. I feel that's what really brings me back to it. Then again, not to say that I'm not overstimulated. A lot of the times I am, especially when the world is wild, as it has been for the past few years, and I'm sure it will continue to be. Balance between work and free time, how? That is what I ask myself all the time. I don't have the answer to that because I am very much in the midst of doing as much as I can and really pushing my work forward and trying to make this full-time art thing happen. But something that really helps me is, as I was sharing, I now work until 6 or 7 p.m. This is big for me, you guys, because back in the day I would be like painting up until 3 a.m. being like, no, you have to be like so into it. And I was being very strict, but to the point that it started becoming negative because I didn't really have any division in between work and free time. And it gets tricky when your passion is your job and then you want to see, you just come up with ideas of projects all the time. That's something that happens to me all the time, and I need to tell myself like, Caro, slow down, take a breath. You have enough in your plate right now. But saying what helps me is when 6 or 7 p.m. come and I start my workday doing a to-do list for the day. I have to-do lists for the week and for the month. And I've talked about this on previous videos. How do I structure that? So if 6 or 7 p.m. arrives and I have not finished my to-do list, I just surrender and I say, okay, this is as much as I could do today. Whatever I have in my to-do list that I didn't get to do today will just be part of my to-do list tomorrow, and that's the way it is, you know, because I need to be able to be a human being doing life, not only an art machine. So that's been very helpful for me to just learn how to make peace with the fact that my expectations are higher than what I can get done in a day in reality. So that's the one tip that I have. And when possible, I really try my best to have days off. I don't get to have days off all the time, but when I do, I literally don't come into my studio, and I just plan stuff with friends that has nothing to do with art making. And it's even fun sometimes to paint with friends, but I try to just have activities on the side and love new hobbies. Like lately I've been loving to learn how to make desserts, and I've been making cheesecakes, and I've been making chocolates, and I've been making, you know, pressed flowers, and just this other stuff that has nothing to do with art making. It might be fueling my creativity, but it's not directly painting and my art business. So I hope this helps. Will you be resuming your chit chats, well-being and styling videos? Yes, I felt I never stopped, did I? So I did stop making chit chats as often as I was doing them back in the day, because I started doing my chit chats on Patreon, and I have over 30 chit chats that are exclusively on Patreon. So if you want to check those are there. They're up for grabs for you to check out and binge watch them whenever. But I feel like I'm always mixing like art vlogs with well-being and just like life in general. If I'm not, let me know. But I am actually very excited that up until this month, in January, I was doing 2 exclusive videos on Patreon a month. Now I'm only doing 1, because I would love to start sharing more chit chats and more videos in general here on YouTube. So I am actually filming a Nourishing Days video right now, and I want to start making more of those. If that's what you mean, please let me know. But I feel like, yeah, I've just started to combine well-being, Nourishing Days, chit chats with the vlogs. But if what you're looking is for specific chit chats or Nourishing Days, they're coming, I promise. Any advice for artists wanting to do what you do but have small following? Yes, do it. It doesn't matter if you have a small following. I feel that one of the things that really shifted my chip 11 years ago in 2013 when I moved to New York, and I've shared this on another Q&A, but I'll make it very fast. 2013, I moved to New York, and I was taking a few bio art and photography continuing education courses. On the side, I was painting and drawing and doing my artwork, and I was whining a lot and feeling miserable for myself, being like, why is my art not in a Chelsea gallery? Why don't I have a solo show in New York? Like, why am I not part of group shows? Why are galleries not knocking my door to represent me? Why is this magazine not sharing my art? And then I just stopped for a second and I just said, okay, Caro, if literally Juxtapos or High Fructose or any gallery knocks your door today and they're like, okay, we're here, we want to see your work and see if we like it in order to feature you or represent you or whatever, give you a solo show. I realized that I didn't have the artwork that I loved in order to do that. Like, I thought to myself, like, yeah, if Juxtapox knocks my door today and they want to see my work, I don't have artwork ready that I feel is the best representation of the best that I can do. So I got into making the art, and I had no following at the time whatsoever. And I feel that really, I started creating as if the magazine or the gallery had already contacted me. I started making art as if I had a solo show coming, and eventually a solo show came and I'm like, okay, I have the artwork ready. And that's what I still think up until today. I still don't have gallery representation, and I'm not part of like Art Basel or, you know, like Volta or any of these amazing, big, cool art shows, international art shows, but I am creating artwork, which is a cohesive theme, thinking that one day one of these galleries or one of these magazines will knock my door and they'll be like, we want to see your work, and I'll be like, here it is. It's ready. represent me. So I still go by that motto today. Like, I'm working as if I would have a solo show coming up, and that's not, I'm not trying to be like The Secret or manifestation, you know. I'm not saying that because I'm doing these, someone will knock my door and it will happen. But in case it does, I want to be ready. So that's the best advice that I can give, because that's the advice that I give myself. Create as if you would have the following. Create as if you would have what you want going on for yourself. I think that's the best way to do it. And the people will eventually come, I think. And I think it would be a whole other conversation if we go into how to market myself. But that's the best advice that I can give. Just create as if the people would already be here, because eventually people will show up, or they'll see your profile or whatever it is that you're creating, whether it's an Etsy shop or Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, showing at your local art fair. If you have the work, then you'll keep creating and people will have something to see. So I would just say keep going and do it as if the people were already there. That's what I tell myself every single day. Do you get culturally homesick? How do you cope with being so far from your ancestral home? I get culturally homesick all the time. And how do I cope with being so far away, not only from Peru, but from my family and from the best friends that I grew up having? I lived in Peru 23 years of my life. I've been on the States 10 years, which is wild. I thought I would be here 1 year and somehow I'm still here. But how do I cope with it? In many various ways. One of them is cooking Peruvian foods, just eating Peruvian dishes. Homemade Peruvian dishes is so healing for the soul. It feels like food for the soul. Also food for the body, but especially for the soul. And it's been beautiful because it's not that I grew up cooking everything at home. You would just go anywhere and you get Peruvian food anywhere in Peru, right? So there's a lot of dishes that I didn't know how to make, and being far away was the perfect excuse to learn how to make a bunch of new dishes. And that on one hand, going to Peruvian restaurants as well is one of my favorite things. We have one restaurant that is like an hour away from here. Back in New York City, we had so many everywhere, but now there's this one which is randomly in a mall food court, but it's so delicious, and they have more like traditional Peruvian food, not like the typical just ceviche, you know. I listen to Peruvian music a lot, and even Peruvian music that I didn't grow up listening to, which has been beautiful. Like, I have so many playlists that are with cumbia, like Amazonian cumbia, psychedelic Amazonian cumbia, and huaynos and marinera, and all these different Peruvian music that some I did grow up listening to, some I've started to love within the last 10 years more than ever. So that for me is also very important. If you're curious on learning about Peruvian music, let me know, because I would love to share my playlists with you. And as far as being far away from family, I am very intentional on calling and being there as much as I can. Of course, it's not as easy to travel. I try to go back home as much as I can. Last year we didn't go, but the year before we were there when the year started, and then we went 2 more times that year, which was amazing. I feel it's the time that we've traveled the most back home, but my husband's also Peruvian and his family's also all back in Peru. So both of us really feel these like thirst of Peru in so many ways. And yeah, just whenever I'm there, really trying to make the best out of my trips. I feel I have so much love for Peru. I would be ready to move back today, but yeah, just spending a lot of intentional time speaking to my family as much as I can and being as present as I can. And it's a long love, and I truly see myself living there at some point again, hopefully soon. Okay, and the last question is, how do you find inspiration these days? What interests inspires you at the moment? I don't know if this is what you were asking, but this is what's coming up for me. I feel that the last few months have been a lot in the world in general, and I feel that something that inspires me to keep creating and keep getting inspired, and that fuels my creativity to be like, yes, let's make art in this crazy wild world, is that I feel that art making and sharing the beauty of nature and sharing the beauty of love are so important, not only for me when I create, but I feel that when I see the artwork, whether it's a painting, a film, a music video, or whatever from other artists, that inspires me and reminds me of the vast infinity of beauty there is in the world, even when at the same time there might be a lot of injustice and hurt and so many things that are just very hurtful and negative and just make us feel all these feelings. So that on one hand, and on the other hand, I feel that always coming back to my skill, which for me is painting, and for you it might be something else, or maybe it's also painting, coming back to that as my center pretty much reminds me of why I'm here on earth, why life is worthy, why it's beautiful to keep exploring and learning and creating and getting curious and sharing and learning and researching and all the things. So that is what is currently inspiring me. Sometimes I feel that if people empower people contaminating planet Earth, or, you know, killing left and right, or just getting rid of indigenous communities in the name of petroleum, or whatever it is, you name it, if those people are not resting, I feel that I don't want to rest in trying to create the world that I want to see, even though I am not a big corporation or a government that takes huge, vast decisions. I feel that it all comes back to, there's so much that I can fix. There's so much that I can learn. There's so many things that I could do within my home, like literally this home, and my family, and the way that I treat others and the way that I treat myself, that I feel that's the point where I want to start. There's this saying like, do you want to change the world? Start by doing your bed every day. And I feel that that might be very naive, but being that naive and being like, you know what, let's start here. Let's start small, think big, act small, is something that really brings me back to the beauty of how much power we all have as a collective. And I could talk about this forever, but that's everything that I'm going to share today. Thank you so much for tuning into this Q&A. I hope it was inspiring and short because sometimes they last for like 2 hours. Thank you for being here. If you have any other questions, please feel free to let me know in the comments, and at some point I will do another Q&A and I'll check those comments. And thank you once again, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. If you like what you see here, you're welcome to subscribe to this channel or not. It's up to you. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.